First, allow me to thank Scott Mattingly and the Volunteer Fire Department for their great article they had in the Standard on the viewpoints. I thought they did a good job in outlining the fire departments, the history of the fire department and where it is today, and we don't know where it's going. As a start today, I need to be clear about fiscal court's role in the county fire departments. The Bardstown-Nelson County Volunteer Fire Department is a private, non-profit organization that operates completely separate from county government, other than that state law now allows the dues to be collected through the tax bills. First, allow me to thank our Bardstown and Nelson County Fire Department for their dedicated services to our community. Also, at this time, I want to thank all of our volunteer fire departments that have contributed to our community. May God bless you all. Over the past few months, relations between the city and the Bardstown-Nelson County Volunteer Fire Department have been bruised. Discussions from city officials have implied that city residents are funding the majority of the cost for fire protection. This has been an ongoing assertion for several years, with various schools of thought used as a basis. You guys need to run to get that. I'll leave that up to you guys. Then over the past few weeks, city officials have now said a full-time paid fire department is needed, that 45 volunteers must vacate the premises, and taxpayers will now have to pay for staffing of these services. Even if there was an unbalanced funding for fire protection, some city officials are not giving county taxpayers any credit for their occupational taxes. Roughly 70% of the revenue collected through the city's occupational tax is paid by non-city residents. That's roughly $1.2 million. This type of mentality leads to citizens not having any faith in their government and perhaps lead to a great divide that is not good for Bardstown and Nelson County. Perhaps a real debate among city officials, first and foremost, is to decide if the city should continue to fund services that otherwise it could not afford with the utility subsidies. For decades, I want to point that out, the city has been very successful with this approach to providing services and keeping city taxes low. City of Bardstown's tax base and tax rate does not support the many services that have been added because of the revenue from utilities, and if a change of philosophy is undertaken, it is unfair and immoral to use county taxpayers for services that the city cannot afford itself. I have some recommendations I want to present to the community today, in particular the city officials. I thank you all for being here today, and in particular the mayor. First, I respectfully ask that the city slow down on their latest request for 24/7 fire protection. Excellent fire protection is still available at no additional cost. Second, I respectfully request the mayor and city council to accept the Bardstown-Nelson County Volunteer Fire Department's offer to have automatic mutual aid. This will keep fire protection at today's level. Yes. Yeah. Even with the 2 separate stations and 2 separate chiefs, this will work. Third, very important, probably the most important thing I'm going to mention today, is please keep the fire departments on the same radio frequency. Anything short of this would jeopardize public safety. It would not be, and it would be just plumb stupid. Now, last on my list here. For several years, we have discussed our desire to have EMS and the Volunteer Corporation integrate services. I believe this is the most cost-effective method to improve fire protection to our citizens. But this must be done with due diligence and a spirit of cooperation. Over the past 24 months, we will continue to develop this idea. As the county continues to grow, and if this concept is successful, we can look at other smaller departments to expand fire protection. In closing, I ask city officials not to destroy or dismantle the fire department, but build upon it with an open mind and, most importantly, with respect. Separating physically is one thing, but separating as community partners is wrong. The mayor, Councilman Buckman, Councilman Hagan were wrong on the recent annexation plan of the distilleries, and they are wrong on this issue too. The city of Bardstown has enough challenges every day without creating battles that everyone loses. I'll answer questions if you have questions.
Dean, you talked about pleading with the city not to have a 24/7 fire service, saying that they already have an excellent 24/7 service. Excellent could be.
I said excellent fire service,
right.
Not 24/7 service.
Okay, excellent. So.
Well, we started out with a conversation about the funding disparity between the city and the corporation. Then, in a matter of a few weeks, we moved to a mayor that has a mission to have a full-time paid fire staff, and so that's mixing up ideas there, and doing it at the last minute before the council has to vote on a budget is not really a fair way to do business.
I've been told that the city is going to go to a full-time fire service, wants to go to a full-time fire service, whether the two are divided or not. If it did, and you had an automatic mutual aid agreement, wouldn't that benefit the city and the county?
Well, sure. Yes. That would benefit everybody. And that's what I'm pleading for. No. I've been told that the city has applied for a new frequency for fire protection for the fire department. And there's absolutely no reason why they should be on separate frequencies when a fire tone goes off. Well, you got 45 volunteers that wants to volunteer. I don't see the purpose of not having everybody involved when they want to be involved. The corporation has sent a letter to the mayor offering that service, and I think it would be just plumb silly not to take up that offer. Oh, I'll stand to be corrected, but I don't understand that logic. I wish I had 45 paid or 45 trained policemen to help Raymond out in some cases. They're willing to go at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning to deal with a fire. But the real concept here that I want to drive at is taking the EMS service, and we've talked about this for several years. As when I look at fire protection, and you correct me if I'm wrong, I'm looking at saving lives first and building second. Okay, and bigger communities have taken their ambulance service and made it a part of first responders responding to emergencies. In particular, more importantly, there would be wrecks and your fires, structural fires. And if you could have those first responders respond that are trained paramedics, that are trained firefighters dually, then you'll have a better system than you would have. And you've already got a revenue source to help fund some of those services. Now, part of that process would be that this is just a vision now, that we would take the corporation's dues that they currently have, and over the next 2 to 5 years raise those dues up where the corporation could fund through a contract the EMS service those employees as first responders, just like they're currently doing now with the city. I believe, correct me guys if I'm wrong, that currently the corporation funds 2 positions at the fire department and then half the chief's salary up until this past little bit.
They fund half of the chief's salary and 2,460 hours of part-time labor.
Okay, roughly $140,000 a year is what I was told by the corporation. So you could take and add to that, and then you could have another first truck out, and then we can work towards the next truck out. There's a better way to doing this is what's being done, I can tell you that. Now, can the city afford this service? They can't afford it with the city corporation, city corporate limits. They'll be forwarding it on the backs of the county taxpayers as a whole, and that's unethical.
Judge, can you equate the occupational tax in all of this and how it even has anything to do with it?
How, as a city tax, I'm using myself, and I've used this on several occasions. As a taxpayer who loves the city of Bardstown, lives outside the corporate limits, come to town every day and work, pay about $475, $80 a year in tax, the city occupational tax. I want to know, what am I getting from my tax dollar? Everyone else is asking this question. If you don't ask that question, you're not thinking. And I don't mind doing it, but you'd like to get a little bit of credit for paying the city's taxes or supporting the city. And to start identifying and say, well, we use this for utilities or we use this for something, that's not a fair way of doing it. You wouldn't do your grandmother like that, I can tell you that. Yes, Rob?
Do you recommend an extension of the current agreement so that some consideration of negotiations can take
Well,
place?
you know, the Standard did a story, an editorial about this issue and talked about the possible extension. And, you know, really, I think the separation of the two buildings is not the end of the world. And in essence, it'll keep the community from having to build a new station that we talked about building down the road. But it still don't mean that when the toner goes off, that the two agencies can't respond. If it's in the city, the chief hires the guy in charge. If it's in the county, Chief Bass is in charge. Pretty simple. Doesn't have to be complicated.
What is the city thinking about going to its own frequency? Are they converting to digital radios, or what's the rationale behind that?
I don't know that, Randy. You'll have to ask the mayor on that.
The city holds the rights to the 151.280 and its companion frequency for the frequencies we're using now. That's an FCC.
They're regulated, yeah.
Their name is on that. The corp. I'm sorry, the corporation.
I thought so,
Owns
yeah.
the rights.
Didn't have to do that. Did not have to do that. I'm not putting you on the spot. I'm not going to put you on the spot like the mayor did.
I just, it would have been, I would have been remiss in my duties had I not prepared the city for something.
I understand.
The
I
corporation
understand.
decided not to allow us to use that frequency.
Yeah. But we're brothers and sisters. We're neighbors here, and for a politician to say we're going to go to a different frequency is wrong. Because when you can have 45 people responding to a fire instead of 8 firefighters, you know you got a better chance of working together and making it work right.
So just in a general sense, do you support the split, or were you for the split of the two fire departments in general?
No, I was not for the split, and especially the way it came down. You know, splitting of the corporation actually has its benefits. I see both. There's a side to splitting to two buildings and having two separate agencies that way. But it still don't mean you can't work together. City police and the sheriff work right beside each other every day. They respond every day together on many occasions, don't they, Debbie?
Yes, sir, they're on the same radio channel as well.
They're on the same radio channel.
Yes, sir.
See, that's one of the, when I heard about that, this is one of the most critical things I'm speaking of today, is that communication link is so important. And hopefully they'll resolve those issues. And I would ask the city and the mayor to postpone this deadline. You can still have the same fire protection you have today, Councilman. You can still buy mutual aid, automatic mutual aid. You still got your paid staff, and you still got your volunteers answering the same calls.
I'll comment on the frequencies, is that would be an operational improvement. That does not mean that there will not be interoperational contact between the two agencies. It's just another frequency in the radio. It would actually be a positive thing. I think, Debbie, I know that Joe is in favor of having additional frequencies in the county to use.
There's nothing wrong with extra frequency, but to be toned out, I was told that the mayor was insisting that the city have their own frequency so they can be prepared to be on their own. And then the automatic mutual aid was questionable. and I'm not going to reveal my source on that. Yeah.
See it exactly
Yeah.
that way. We would, with the corporation holding the rights to that license, that was just the prudent thing for us to do, and I believe the negotiation for future automatic mutual aid would be up for discussion.
I can't imagine a mayor for or the councilman for the city of Bardstown not wanting that automatic mutual aid. I can't imagine that happening. I want to hear the logic, and somebody tells me the logic behind it. Because that's just plain arbitrary. Any other questions?
Judge, what are you hearing as yourself, and what are the magistrates hearing from the citizens? What are their main?
That's kind of why I'm here today, to assure the community that fire protection will continue. Scott, in his article with the help of the corporation, laid it out very well in the standard, and I'm hearing from a lot of several senior citizens around the community in the last couple of days that have not read that article. So I would encourage that same, those same contexts. Maybe, I don't know if you can do something, you guys at the news about that or not, but did a great story at the Standard about the history of the fire department, and that the fire protection will continue the way we've had it.
Maybe a question for the fire chief elect, but will most of the volunteers remain volunteers for both of the fire departments?
We believe that would be the case.
We began individual interviews yesterday evening, Chief Howard and myself, and so far, I would say the overwhelming response has been that most do want to stay with us.
Okay.
So that being said, it looks like the automatic mutual aid would be just a lock. And that's what I'm concerned about.
Judge, I just want to bring up one point that you brought up about the city going to a 24/48 fire department.
24/7?
Yeah. The questions that I've got on it is the reason the city is wanting to move to that venue is to lower the response times in the city limits. With the agencies splitting up and going in separate directions, sharing volunteers, we're still not lowering the response times. And that's the
I understand.
overall point that we are trying to push.
That's-
12-minute response times, 18-minute response times is unacceptable. I know you have a different viewpoint from the county. I think you said that in the past that you all are okay with those times. But we're trying to push for in the city to lower those response times and provide a better service for the citizens.
I understand, and that will, if you have 24/7, it better improve response time, but that comes at a cost.
And you can't get 24/47 without having a cost. That's what the cost is.
I understand. I truly understand that part of it.
That was in discussion well in advance.
Allow me to ask a question, maybe you can research this. I'll try to get the fire commission, they're doing some research as to try to tell me of a city of the size of Bardstown, less than 13,000 people having full-time paid 24-hour-a-day fire protection. And I don't know how many cities that less than 13,000 people actually have that. Do you have that, Chief?
Yes, sir, we do.
City of Danville has a population of 16,218. City of Shelbyville, Glasgow, you're looking for something specifically below.
Below, I looked at the 12 to 13,000 range. I couldn't find one.
City of Shepherdsville, 11,222. City of Somerset, 11.
24/7 paid fire staff,
Yes, sir.
not integrated with the EMS service.
Correct.
Okay.
They have a fire tax though, don't they?
Yeah, I got a tax.
Typically, most cities have fire tax. That is correct.
They have a higher occupational tax.
Or an insurance surcharge premium.
Well, that's the political side of it that the mayor will decide and the council will decide. And I understand improving fire protection in the corporate limits. There's no way you can improve response time to the you probably would improve just a hair out in the corporate, out the side of the city limits. No doubt that if you got somebody sitting at the station on a truck ready to go, it's going to improve time, but at what cost? Yeah. Any other questions? But again, the closing, the community is still going to have fire protection, and especially if they can work out. I think the mutual aid is important. Councilman, if you would work on that as a community leaders, you know, I think it would be to the benefit of the citizens, of all citizens, not just the county citizens, but the city corporate citizens as well. Thank you all for being here, and I appreciate your time.